It's April 2026, which means it's officially been 6 years since I sold my very first painting ever. Let me show you. Here's my book. In case you haven't seen my book, it has a chronological catalog of all my art. And here it is. The first painting that I ever sold. And the story of how I sold it is in here. I sold it for $750, which at the time was absolutely mind-blowing to me. A little backstory. I went to college and I studied mechanical engineering and business because they said you couldn't be an artist, you couldn't make money as an artist. Growing up, I loved art. I also loved math and science, so engineering was great for me. And then after college, I worked a couple of years in the oil industry, still working in the oil industry. I realized I hated that. After a couple of years, someone taught me how to meditate, and I started meditating every day. And I credit all the realizations I had about what to do with my life to meditation. I still meditate every day. And so that kind of put me on the path of realizing that corporate environment wasn't for me. So how did I get to selling my first painting like 10 years later? So I quit, and then long story short, I was working as a freelance photographer, video creator, digital marketer, freelance. So that was kind of a step in the direction of using my creativity to make a living, to make money. After a few years of that, I still had this nagging, I'm still working for other clients and applying my creativity to help their dreams come true, which was very fulfilling. But I always wanted to sell my own creations. It was just hard to believe that it would be possible to make money selling art. It was already hard to believe that I could make money as a photographer because photography was something I didn't go to school for. I didn't have a degree in. I didn't have official training in. It came natural to me. Felt easy, and it was fun. Making money with something that checked all those boxes was unheard of for me, because so far I had only made money in a legit career that I went to college for, and it was a not very fulfilling experience going to work for me. So I feel like a step towards making money as a photographer was already pretty mind-blowing and difficult to overcome. And then making money selling a painting was crazy. It still kind of blows my mind, but in the beginning it was truly I can't believe I can make money with a painting, because it's just a thing that I made and I had fun doing it, and I just put it out there and someone gave me money for it. That's crazy. And this painting, it doesn't serve any functional purpose to our survival as humans. It doesn't provide shelter, it doesn't provide energy, it doesn't feed us, it doesn't help us make babies. That's arguable, actually. So I do think art serves a bigger purpose, and it's very purposeful. That's a topic for another video, but this video is a couple reflections on 6 years of selling art. So yeah, that first one just broke the seal, and that was in April. So COVID hit in 2020. A lot of my photography clients and marketing clients canceled. And at the time I had been painting again. And I decided, let me do my own marketing and shoot my own photos and videos and try to market my own stuff. So I started doing that in March, and then in April I sold my first painting. And I was like, whoa, cool. This is possible. Maybe, let's see. And I sold a bunch of paintings during COVID. And then for the next few years, I was kind of doing both. I was still working with some clients and still selling art. In 2024, I had a couple good painting sales, record-breaking for me. First painting sold my first painting to cross $10,000. I just took it as a sign from the universe, because at the time I was already feeling very fed up with the client work, the photography and video. And I was just like, fuck it, I'm going for it. So 2024 was my first year that I was a full-time artist, only living off of my art sales. So it's been like just over 2 years now. And someone asked me what was the scariest thing. And the scariest thing, not just as with the art, but with the photography also, the scariest thing is that there's no paycheck. There's no boss and no paycheck. Every 2 weeks, you know you're getting a paycheck, and you've got a boss and your boss's boss and your boss's boss's boss basically giving you a roadmap and like goals and like, here's what we need you to do. Not having that, you have to A, figure out what to do, B, hold yourself accountable to it, have the discipline to actually do the things that you need to do to like make a living, like filming and making marketing content for my art. I have no one to report to. No one's saying, you need to film this video by April 4th and post it by April 7th. And the scariest thing is the lack of paycheck too. There's no paycheck coming every 2 weeks, but rent is still due every month. So it's up to me to get it done. And then the scariest thing about that, especially as an artist, is every painting I make is an expression. It's like an expression of me as an individual. So when I put it out into the world, it's very vulnerable to be like, look at this thing that I made, because it is susceptible to like ridicule and judgment. Even the act of like being an artist, like society doesn't really promote being an artist to kids in school. It promotes being a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer or any sort of like good career that makes a good financial security. So the hardest thing about going to be a photographer and then an artist was the fear of judgment for me. The fear of judgment that what is he doing? Who does he think he is? He didn't go to art school. He wasn't some child prodigy. Who do you think you are charging these kind of prices for your photography work or for your paintings? And then the internal confidence of standing by those prices. Well, first, before even talking about prices, it's the internal confidence of charging like any number over $0 for my own creative work. Because like a painting, also like how do you value something that I made as an expression of my heart and soul with dollars? That's crazy. It's so hard. You could argue that it's like limitless, like it should be $1 million because it's a human's expression of their soul and heart and soul. Or you could argue that it's the cost of materials, which would be like $100. But that's not sustainable to make a living off of at all. So, but the biggest lesson that I've learned, I actually was journaling about it this morning. Okay, there are two big lessons. They're kind of connected. The biggest lesson that I've learned is on how to succeed as an artist, how to make money, and how to have the energetic, like, consistency to keep going. I think the best art is the most authentically expressed art. That the artist, the human, and I'm not just talking about paintings, I'm talking about all art forms, writing, music, whatever. The most authentic expression that the person is making truly whatever they want to make, I believe is the best art. Because I think part of the human experience is to get to know who we are, to learn about ourselves, and then share who we are with the world. So however that looks like to you. And I think when an artist makes something that is so authentically aligned with who they are, it becomes this like beacon of this is what it's like for a human to be expressing themselves. And then I think everyone is like a moth drawn to a flame of almost seeing that as an example of, oh, that's what it looks like when someone authentically expresses themselves. Because that's what everyone wants internally, subconsciously, whether they know it or not. So I think like musicians, they're authentically making the type of art they want to make, and those are the songs that resonate with the masses. I don't think it's necessarily about the content of the song. It's like the energy, the frequency behind it. And I think it's the same thing with art. You look at a lot of abstract art that can be more controversial because people will, like Yves Klein, for example, made a bunch of art that was just blue. That's controversial to some people because they're like, oh, my kid could do that. Or like Rothko or Cy Twombly, a lot of these abstract things, they can look easy, like anyone can do it. But I think the truth is those artists refined that style over, a lot of them over their entire career to end up at this style that they're so known for because they're constantly chipping away, working in ways that are less, they're constantly going more and more towards a more authentic expression. And I think they start off doing something authentic, but then they step towards even more authenticity and even more authenticity. And I think that's the practice of making art continually and having a longer career. So that's kind of a hack. This concept is both a hack to make it easier and like terrible news because it just makes it even more difficult. Because the more authentic of a thing you're sharing with the world, the more vulnerable it feels. Because now an even more authentic part of you is up for other people's interpretation and adoration and judgment and negative comments and positive comments. It's like, it's hard. But then it's also liberating and easy because to some degree, you just have to do whatever you want. And the more fun you're having and the more authentically it's like, I want to do this, the more likely it is to succeed, I believe. So it becomes harder to share with the world, but more likely to succeed. If you want to measure success as financial success of making something that people want to give you money for. If you just want to make art for your own therapeutic enjoyment and never share it with the world, that's a totally different story. And even in that case, honestly, you're probably still doing very authentically expressed art that would probably sell well because you're like pouring your guts out onto the canvas. Which leads me to the next point of which I realized I learned recently when I went to a Gerhard Richter 2 exhibitions in this past December in Paris, that it's okay to go through phases and work through different styles of art. I've like push-pull feeling about how I've gone through different phases of like you have to pick a style and stick with it because then you become known for this style, like Keith Haring or Brito or whatever. But Gerhard Richter has worked in many different styles and he's known for all his styles, and that's okay. And I think on my journey I've been not hopping because they're all connected. I've been shifting through different styles, and I think it's on my path of getting to more authentically expressed art. And you can kind of see it in my book, or if you scroll through my website, you can see like earlier on I was doing a lot more textured, colorful stuff, and then I had this like swipey style with my Zodiac series, and then it's kind of become more meditative lately. Last few years, and then now I have a new series called Natural Expressions, which this one and those two are a part of, and there's a couple others on display somewhere in Fort Lauderdale. I feel like this is another step for me in the direction of making whatever I want to make, and this was inspired by seeing some artworks at Art Basel this past year that to me, I was like, wow, this artist is truly just making whatever they want. So that's me stepping more into that and seeing, like making things that I really love and I want to make. And I'm just more and more like in the process of making it. And if you're an artist, you understand like getting out of my head and just like letting marks happen and just letting it flow out of me instead of overthinking and overanalyzing every little line that I do. So it's called Natural Expressions because that's exactly what it stands for. It's what do I naturally want to be expressing? And in this moment, in this period of my life and my career, this is my natural expression. It's the evolution of my natural expressions. And that's what I'm making right now. So 6 years of selling art, pretty wild. If you had told me when I was in college studying mechanical engineering that 15 years later I'd be talking into a camera about my art career and how I'm a full-time artist and I make paintings and sell them for a living, that would be pretty hilarious to me and pretty wild. And here we are. So, if you enjoyed this video, let me know, drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe to my channel, but most importantly, I share updates about my art and what's available and other musings about creativity to my email list. So join my email list to be the first to find out. You'll also get a PDF catalog of my available works. And that's it. See you next time.